Hey parents, today I want to talk to you about something that's absolutely critical for helping your depressed, anxious daughter make progress, and that is emotional validation. Emotional validation isn't just a nice thing, it's actually one of the most powerful tools you have at your disposal in terms of helping her. And so I want to break down why validation is so important and how you can use it in your everyday interactions with your daughter. My name is Ashley Waknine. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and a nationally recognized life coach for teenagers and young adults. And on this channel, I'm taking my years of experience in private practice and equipping parents who are supporting a teenage daughter through anxiety and depression to give you the skills and knowledge you need to really show up for her and guide her recovery process. If that is of interest to you, you'll want to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. So your daughter is having an emotional health crisis because of her relationship to her own emotional experience. It's not the emotions themselves that causes anxiety and depression. It's the way that she relates and responds to them. So your daughter is most likely relating to emotions as something that is very scary, very dangerous, something that she needs to avoid or shut down. And this is how we kind of move gradually into the place of depression, because you get into this habit of avoiding and shutting down emotions. The problem is that the brain actually can't differentiate between shutting down specific emotions. And so eventually it just starts to shut down all of them. And this is why when you're dealing with something that's very severe depression, you often hear people say, I don't feel anything. I feel completely numb, because the brain has kind of just shut down all of it. And now you're not feeling your feelings. And this is actually kind of how the link between anxiety and depression occurs, because it often happens where it starts with anxiety. And, let's say your daughter starts to avoid or shut down feelings around anxiety and fear, stuff that just makes her nervous. And so she avoids those situations and she shuts down those feelings. And then over time, the more that becomes habitual and she really gets stuck into that pattern, the more you start to slide over into depression, because not only are you shutting down the feelings themselves, but you're actually avoiding the situations that make you feel anxious. And generally, the stuff we avoid is the stuff that we care about and enjoy the most in our lives. And so as you start to do that, life starts to feel a whole lot smaller. Validation is what helps your daughter build a new way of relating to her emotions. It's not about making her feel good. It's not about being a soft parent. It is about modeling a relationship that we ultimately want her to have with her own emotions. And so when we validate, we are sending the signal of, look, this emotion is real. It makes sense that it's happening. It's okay that you're feeling this way. You will find your way through. And that is ultimately the goal, right? To help build her confidence that she doesn't have to be afraid of these feelings, that these feelings are not dangerous, they're not going to hurt her, and she can find her way through. And so validation is the thing that starts to make her feel safe within herself in a difficult moment. And that is what ultimately starts to drive long-lasting progress. And so, there are numerous opportunities in everyday life that you can validate your daughter's emotions. All of these are opportunities to help her start to shift her relationship to her own emotional life. So let's be clear, there's a difference between validating emotions and condoning behaviors. So you want to validate her emotional experience, and we don't want to be condoning behaviors that are harmful or keeping her stuck. And I think that parents often are worried that if I validate her emotions, I am also sending the message of these behaviors are okay. But you still have your limits and your boundaries. I can validate the emotions without moving my limits and boundaries. And so what I'm actually doing is maintaining the boundaries, but adding a sense of internal safety into the equation. And what that does actually over time is it lessens the need for those harmful negative behaviors, because the more internally safe that I feel, the less those behaviors need to exist. Okay, so let's take a couple examples so you can understand the difference between what invalidation and validation is. So the difference is often just in the way that you say the words, not the words themselves. So let me give you an example. You go to your daughter and you say, "Time to get off your phone and come down for dinner." And she says, "Oh, you're so annoying. I don't even want to come for dinner." Invalidation. "You don't want to come for dinner." Validation. "You don't want to come for dinner." Same words. The first is like the message of, "This is ridiculous that you're feeling this way." Validation is, "You're feeling this way. I believe that you're feeling this way." Doesn't mean that she's not going to come to dinner, but it just means that I'm acknowledging that that's the experience she's having. So, another example, let's say your daughter is afraid to go to a party and she says, "Oh, I don't want to go to that party. Everybody's going to look at me like I'm so weird." Invalidation. What? What are you talking about? Nobody's going to think you're weird. Just go. You'll have a good time. Validation. You're really nervous about going to that party. You're so worried about what people will think. Invalidation tries to talk her out of the feeling. It basically says, "You shouldn't be feeling this way. You need to stop feeling this way so you can go to that party." Validation acknowledges that her fear is real. Doesn't say you should give in to the fear. It simply acknowledges that that fear exists and helps her feel that she can have the fear and go to the party as well. So I think, like in this example, invalidation often comes from a loving place. You don't want to see your daughter in pain. You want to make it better for her. You want to fix things. But we have to be careful because in doing so, you are feeding into that avoidance loop when you do that. And so you have to be very clear in your mind. My job is not to fix my child's feelings or make her feel better. My job is to be there with her alongside it so that she doesn't feel lost and alone in that experience that she's having, and so that she can grow the confidence and the resilience to the feelings themselves. And look, I think the other reason that we invalidate emotions is because of the way it makes us feel in the moment. When your daughter is having a really big emotion, a really scary, painful, or very volatile emotion, of course you want to shut it down. It's such an uncomfortable experience. Of course we want to run away. And so there's real work for us as parents of reflecting on, what emotions do I not tolerate? What emotions do I tend to avoid and shut down? Because whatever emotions I'm intolerant to, I will not be able to help my daughter build tolerance and resilience and confidence to. And so really expanding our ability as parents to feel the full range of human emotions and not run away, to be able to remain present and grounded and steady within the midst of that so that you can really truly show up for your daughter in the way that is most helpful. And so this is why I often suggest that parents, when they're learning validation, you actually just start by practicing this work on yourself, validating your own emotional experience, acknowledging the feelings you're having, validating those feelings, practicing that present, grounded steadiness in the midst of the feeling, while holding boundary to any behaviors that might be going on that you ultimately would not condone. So, just to wrap up, validation is about saying to your daughter, "I see you, I hear you, I get it." It sends the message to her of, "I can tolerate your feelings, you can tolerate your feelings too." And look, this is playing the long game. This is not a quick fix solution. This is about shifting the dynamics between you and your daughter, which ultimately helps shift the dynamics between your daughter and herself. Because as you model validation and you come to adopt that in your relationship, it becomes easier and more natural for her to start to do this for herself. And so it also helps you really strengthen your relationship and leaves your daughter much more receptive to your guidance, which is going to make it far easier for you to support her and guide her beyond depression and anxiety. So I hope you found the video helpful. And if you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button so I can reach more parents who are going through similar things. And just a few resources to point you in the direction of before we go. So the first is a private Facebook group for parents, which I run to help parents that are supporting a teenage daughter through anxiety and depression. So this is a place where you'll find a community of parents who are going through similar things, and also a place you can receive further access and guidance to me. The second is a free masterclass that I recently did that will help you strengthen your bond with your daughter and guide her in the direction of recovery. And the third is to let you know about Path to Peace Parenting, which is the parent coaching program that I run, which helps parents optimize their parental approach so they can target their daughter's emotional health needs and challenges, strengthen the alliance with their daughter so that you can break through progress barriers together and really accelerate getting her onto a path of thriving. So if that's of interest to you, you can apply to Path to Peace Parenting. You can find the link to Path to Peace Parenting as well as the other resources in the description below. And thank you again for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.